Yo guys, what's up? Sleepyo here. Today I have another LMG PvP build for you, and that one would also work if the changes from the PTS would go through the way they are right now. So everything I use in that build is not affected by the changes of the PTS. A little disclaimer before I go into the build though, I'm not done with that build yet. It is not completely min-maxed. I missed two pieces basically. So yeah, what you see here is not the final version of the build. Anyways, let's get right into it and start with the specialization first, as always. So again, I'm using the sharpshooter specialization. First of all, it gives me the 25% increased headshot damage, then also 30% reload speed and 30% stability, which is definitely useful for LMGs. Sadly, most of the other perks are not really helpful for the build. I mean, the flashbang grenade from the sharpshooter specialization is definitely the worst nade in the game, and since it's a PvP build, you will not use the sharpshooter specialization gun anyways. If you don't want to run sharpshooter though, you could also go demolitionist, and yeah, then you would get 15% more LMG damage. But that's basically the only thing you get here, because yeah, I don't know, all the other things like crisis response, sure, that's good talents, but for LMG builds, I don't think it's too important. So yeah, the only thing you really gain here is the 15% LMG damage, and I personally prefer to have the sharpshooter with some headshot damage, reload speed, and stability. I think that's more useful. To the actual build now. So as you can see, my pieces are, again, kind of all over the place. The only thing that really makes sense here is the two-piece True Patriot and the Petrov chest for the LMG damage, but I will get into that in a second. First, I will start with the guns as always. So as main gun, I'm running the military MK46. The MK46 is basically the M249, just with a different name. Basically the same gun, just a little bit different look and different name, right? I think my MK46 is pretty high roll because I never got anything above that. But I know people that have a M60 with a lot more base damage with equal weapon damage and LMG damage to me. So yeah. Also, that weapon damage right here is accurate. I know when you unequip and equip something, then as you can see right now, the weapon damage sometimes it's bugged. But yeah, that is actually accurate. That's 31.9 on the M60 and then 29.6 on the MK46. So that's accurate. But yeah, the reason why I'm running the MK46 is, as I said, because it is more accurate and I like to hit headshots with my LMG because I think that's what the LMGs are good at. LMGs are the most accurate guns if you spec into it. So yeah, nothing really beats that if you just want to beam the head, right? It is so tight if you have everything into accuracy, and not a single other gun, besides snipers, I guess, beats that accuracy. So I don't know why would you go for full body shots with M60. It doesn't really make sense to me. Why not use that increased headshot damage that you also have with LMGs? Because they have a higher base headshot damage than ARs, right? Right here I have 90 headshot damage, and I don't even think I have precise, right? So yeah, going for body shots with LMGs is just not my style. But if you don't care about headshots, then definitely go M60 because yeah, it has higher base damage. And as you can see, that base damage right here, that is not correct, that's bugged. But back to the MK46. So it has a little bit higher RPM than the M60. I think it's 550 from the base. And yeah, also 100 on mag. Then the reload time is 4.3 seconds. It's basically a little bit under 4 seconds if you cancel the reload by bashing. So that's not too bad. The crit range doesn't matter because it's not a crit build. As talents on all the LMGs, I would recommend Unhinged. And in the PTS, it actually got buffed, in my opinion, because in the PTS you get 20 weapon damage and minus 25 weapon handling. So you lose 5 weapon damage, and you also gain 10 weapon handling. And I think that's a good trade. Like, I would personally take that. I don't know. Again, if you only go for body shots, then sure, it's 5% loss in weapon damage. But to me, that sounds like a buff. But sure, I take it. So Unhinged is definitely the best LMG talent. And I personally would run Optimized as passive talent. It gives me 15% weapon handling. If you don't want to run that though, you could also run Allegro. To the mods real quick. So I'm running a ACOG scope. It's a 4x scope, so you can zoom in with that, but you're not forced to. And the reason I'm running that is because of my secondary, the Nemesis. And the Nemesis passive talent, Preparation, gives me 25% headshot damage when I'm scoped in with my current weapon, which will be the LMG most of the time. And to make that talent work, you need a scope that can actually scope in. So the only scopes that have the option to scope in, but they don't force you to scope in, not like the headshot scopes, is the 4x ACOG scope and the C79 3.4x. The C79 scope though gives you 5% damage to elites, and for PvP build, I don't know, I just take optimal range, like, that's the only thing that can be useful sometimes, but I mean, damage to elites will never be useful, so I don't know, take either of those, they are both not really useful. Then as magazine, I know there's an increased magazine that gives you like, I don't know, 75 bullets. That's how it was before the mods got nerfed. I don't know how much it is now because I don't have it. If you have that, then I would probably run that. But right now I have the 5% rate of fire mag. That's also not too bad. The underbarrel and muzzle is just plus 10% accuracy because that's what I'm stacking with that build. To the actual gear now. So I will start with the gear sets first again. As you maybe know, the 2-piece from True Patriot, 10% damage to armor, works multiplicative in PvP, so it is way more than just 10% weapon damage. And that's why you should definitely try to get the 2-piece True Patriot to work. It is really worth it. And that's why I also have one gear set that won't give me anything. I even miss 5% from devastating here, but it is just so important to have the 10% damage to armor on that build. On my assault rifle PvP build, it just didn't work. You can't go 2-piece True Patriot there. You wouldn't get the right stats with that. But with that build, since the chest gives you 4 attributes, you can make it work. So the pieces you want to have the True Patriot on is the mask and the knee pads, because you don't lose any important talents here, besides probably dialed in, but I don't know, that's not too important to me. As attributes, I have just crit chance and health here. I don't think the crit chance matters at all, because it's not a crit build. I have like 10% crit chance maybe. So just get a super high health roll here if you can. The knee pads is the second piece True Patriot, and True Patriot always rolls with offensive stats. So on the knee pads you will always get the crit chance stat. I guess the lower the better, because the lower the crit chance stat here, the more base armor you will have. And more base armor is definitely better than a higher crit chance. In normalization, it doesn't matter because it all gets normalized to the same armor value, but in occupied, it definitely matters, and I play my builds in the occupied only because I don't PvP in conflict or in the normalized CZ. The True Patriot knee pads also come with a defensive mod slot, and it's a defensive protocol mod slot, so just put in some extra health here. The third gear set is ongoing directive, and I have that on the gloves right now. It's definitely not what I want here because yeah, it doesn't give me anything. It's only one piece, so I don't get any bonus from that. I just took that because it has a skill power roll and a utility slot. And with those gloves, I will get the required 7 utility slots for on the ropes. I guess I got pretty lucky because they also have 8% LMG damage, so that's pretty nice. But the gloves you are looking for here are the Gila Guard gloves, more specific, the Diamond Benq gloves. Those will have a utility mod slot and also a defensive and offensive attribute. So the gloves basically have one of each attribute. The health and weapon damage as attribute, and then the utility as a mod slot. With those gloves, you can get the requirements for On the Ropes and Unstoppable Force, so 577. But I didn't get them yet, and you also want a pretty good pair of gloves, because you want high LMG damage and then a low health roll. The passive talent you're looking for on those would be Devastating or Precise. Next to the chest, and that's the second and last piece I had to replace if I want to make that build work perfectly. So right now I have the crew adapted chest trick, which is not the right one. I don't actually know the name of the chest I want here, but there is another Petrov chest that has a utility system mod slot, and not like that one, a defensive one. If I had a utility system mod slot here, then I could make that build work. The attributes you are looking for in a chest though, they are kinda the same. You want weapon damage as high as you can get, high armor, and skill power, and then something like health, I guess. So you want 2 defensive, 1 utility, and 1 offensive. The talent you want is definitely Unstoppable Force, because, I mean, Berserk, first of all, doesn't work with LMGs. And yeah, Unstoppable Force is a really, really good talent, even now. But when Berserk gets nerfed, then Unstoppable Force is definitely the best talent on the chest. So that's definitely not a bad choice. As mods, I have, as I said, a defensive system mod here, and I just put 5% LMG damage in here. If you don't have those generic system mods, just put some extra armor in here. My holster is a Mora holster from DH, and it's important that it's the Mora holster, because that holster has a utility system mod slot, and yeah, that adds another point to the utility, right? As attributes, you just want skill power here, or cooldown reduction maybe, but I think I prefer skill power. And then as talent, I guess Devastating, or precise, but I personally would prefer devastating, and that's what I have right now. And lastly, to my backpack, it's a big horn pack from Gilagard. From that brand set, I get 5% total armor. The attributes I have on that one are pretty good, have to admit. So 15,500 armor nearly, then 6% cooldown reduction. I would rather have skill power here, but it's whatever, that's fine. And also 2% weapon damage, which could be higher as well. But I got pretty lucky with that backpack, I think, so I can't complain about that. The talents on the backpack are also pretty important, so you want on the ropes. Weapon damage is increased by 25% while all skills are on cooldown, and I will quickly show how that talent works. As the talent says, all skills have to be on cooldown, so on the ropes is active. So let me quickly put my hive on cooldown first. So that's also how I would play the build, by the way. I would play boost hive and chem launcher with that build, and then I would just use the boost hive, get the buff from it, and then instantly destroy it. I mean, that's what you always do with the boost hive. At least that's what I do. So that's not really a disadvantage of the talent that you have to pop your boost hive after you get a buff, because that's what you always do. And yeah, as you can see, on the ropes is not active right now because my chem launcher is not on cooldown. But if I just pop one chem launcher charge, you would see that, yeah, on the ropes is up. And the chem launcher is also on cooldown, even though I have 3 charges left. And I didn't think the talent works like that, but yeah, it does. So yeah, you just pop 1 or 2 of your chem launcher charges, and you have on the ropes active. You just can't allow the chem launcher charges to go up to full again, otherwise it won't be active. Just always have at least 1 chem launcher charge deployed on the floor, and you will get the 25% weapon damage from on the ropes all the time. And that's on the ropes. So that's a pretty strong talent, I have to admit. Sadly, the requirements are 7 or more utility, and that makes it really hard to get, because it is pretty hard to min-max that build. Getting 577 is not that easy, I have to say. As you can see, I mean, I have one random piece here that I don't want. So it's definitely a hard build to get. As a second talent, or as passive talent on the backpack, I have Hardened, just to boost my armor up a little bit more and get more value from Unstoppable Force. The Bighorn backpack always has a defensive system mod and a utility protocol mod. So in a defensive system mod, you can either put in armor, like I did, or also LMG damage if you have. But I only have 2 of those generic system mods, that's why I need a normal armor mod here. In the utility protocol mod, you just put something in with high skill power. In my experience, the purple mods have the highest skill power because they only have 2 stats. So that is the gear I have of that build. As I said in the beginning, it is not min-maxed, but I will put in the perfect build in the description from that divisionbuilder.com site. Before we get to the stats, I also wanted to show my skills. So I'm using the booster hive, because yeah, you just pop it, get the 20% speed buff for 20 seconds, and yeah, then it's on cooldown, so that's pretty good. My second skill, as in all my builds, is the chem launcher with the reinforcer mod. I mean, that's one of the best skills in the game. It's better than armor kits healing wise, and it also works perfect with on the ropes, because yeah, I have 4 ammo right now. As you can see, I have 1 mod with +1 ammo, but if I had a little bit more skill power, I could get up to 8 ammo with that mod. But sadly, I don't match the requirements yet. If I get a little bit better skill power rolls on my gear, then I could use the mod, and I would have 8 ammo. And yeah, then you just pop 2 of those charges, and you still have 6 left, and you have on the ropes active. So the chem launcher is definitely a skill I would recommend if you run on the ropes. Lastly, to my stats with that MK46. So I have 10.5 crit chance, but that doesn't matter, I guess. 90 headshot damage, 4.3 seconds reload time. Bets with the 30% reload speed bonus from Sharpshooter, and then also 30% accuracy and stability. My weapon handling is at -20, because I get -35 from Unhinged, and then +15 from Optimized. My all weapon damage is at 39.5%, but that's with Unhinged already in that. On top of that, I also have 28% LMG damage, and 10% damage to armor, which is not calculated in that, obviously. So with all my damage buffs active, with the 39.5% all weapon damage, 28% LMG damage, 25% from on the ropes, and 46 from the Unstoppable Force with that armor, I would have 138.5% more weapon damage. What a coincidence, I have the same amount of damage with a min-maxed assault rifle build that I just made 2 days ago. But obviously, as I just said, that build is far from min-maxed, I still miss some weapon damage on the backpack, the 2% could be a lot higher. Then I also miss 5% from devastating on the gloves, and the LMG damage could be up to 11% here. And I guess I also miss one generic mod with another 5 or 6% LMG damage. So that build is far from min-maxed, but that is the best version I could put together right now, and I tried my best to explain what to do to improve it to the max. There won't be gameplay of that build in the end of the video, because you can't really find much gameplay in the Occupied when you're looking for it. So yeah, there's just no PvP going on sometimes, and if I farm for 3 or 4 hours and try to find players and I don't find them, then there's nothing else I can do. Because I will not go into conflict and test that build there, because that build is not made for conflict, and I personally wouldn't play the normalized Dark Zone or conflict anyways. So why would I show footage with me playing conflict that I would never play anyways? There's not really a point of that, right? So I hope just showing the build is enough for you. As I said, there's just no gameplay today. As always though, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like and maybe subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching and see you in my next video. Bye!